A push to fix Denver's crumbling sidewalks.
You begin to notice just how crappy a lot of our sidewalks are.
And taxpayers could be fronting the tab.
If it's a worthy cause, take it out of the general fund.
Tonight, we are hearing from both sides of this issue, now set for voters to decide in November.
Curbing concerns.
We want to give you a little incentive to come on by.
How Colorado restaurants plan to keep customers coming in amid worries of a recession.
A tough day for the Broncos. The first practice in pads ends with 2 players now out for the season.
Well, Denver sidewalks are now on the November ballot. Voters will decide on a measure that would put fixing these crumbling walkways back in the city's hands rather than property owners. And doing so would come at the cost to taxpayers to the tune of more than $100 a year.
Denver 7's Rob Harris talked with the supporters who got this on the ballot and a former Denver mayor who believes now is not the time.
We're on the corner of a street where a non-ADA compliant sidewalk merges into grass. If you walk around Denver enough, and I walk around Denver a lot, you see this kind of thing all over the place.
James Warren knows the sidewalks of Denver well. He's gotten around the city without a car for 5 years and counting.
Walking around Denver, if you've done that at all, you begin to notice just how crappy a lot of our sidewalks are.
According to the city, about 40% of sidewalks in Denver are either missing or too narrow, and in low-income areas, it's almost half. At current funding levels, it would take around 400 years to build and fix them all.
We need a connected network of sidewalks in order for it to be useful at all. And that's what the city can do. The city can come in with economies of scale and can plan out large swaths of sidewalk repair or renewal, and individual property owners can't do that.
Advocates have been building support for the sidewalk initiative the old-fashioned way, just talking to voters and going door-to-door collecting signatures to get it on the ballot this November. But they've also been using social media to get their message out even further. Some of their videos on Instagram and TikTok on the issues of Denver sidewalks have collected hundreds of thousands of views so far.
So we're coming from a wealthy neighborhood. This is a class issue.
It's a wild ride, but it's been really, really cool to see how many people have engaged and have connected to this work through storytelling.
This is Jonathan Stalls. He goes by the handle Pedestrian Dignity on TikTok and Instagram.
To actually feel what it's like to be a pedestrian in harmful situations, or it's shocking. And I think a lot of people are just the shock of, I had no idea this was that unsafe. They can hear the cars flying by. And I think all those things tap into an important, almost like a shock into like, wow, I had no idea.
No taxes in 2022.
Former Denver Mayor Wellington Webb is using social media to message too, but he's speaking out against this ballot initiative. He says with inflation and recession talk this year, now's not the time for a new tax.
My message is very clear. Senior citizens, people on fixed income, low-income people cannot tolerate all of these additional new taxes and fees. If there's a service that's worthwhile that government ought to be providing, it should come out the general fund. Taxpayers and people shouldn't have to pay all these extra fees and taxes.
For Denver 7, I'm Rob Harris.
And this ballot measure comes 4 years after the city of Denver launched its neighborhood sidewalk repair program. Not only has that program faced funding issues, putting repairs years off course, there's also been issues with accessibility. An auditor's report released in November of 2020 found the program's rules and regulations were not ADA compliant. Regulations did not require a 5-foot wide passing space every 200 feet when a sidewalk is less than 5 feet wide. And regulations for elevation changes between sidewalk sections were also higher than ADA standards.
And it's not just Denver that has problems with sidewalks. We checked and found other cities in similar size to Denver also have a lot of streets without sidewalks. Take, for instance, Seattle, where the city's Department of Transportation says 24% of streets do not have sidewalks. In other cities, that number is a lot higher, like in Nashville, Tennessee. 81% of roads there don't have sidewalks.
Concerns over a possible recession reverberating across an industry still trying to rebound from the pandemic.
And according to data released by the National Restaurant Association, 43% of restaurant operators believe economic conditions will get worse in the next 6 months. 18% believe they'll get better.
As Denver 7 CB Cotton found out, those same concerns are being felt by businesses right here in Colorado.
Right now, there are only smiles at Hoppa's sushi counter in downtown Denver, but over the past 2 years, there's also been concerns.
You know, it's been a lot of difficulties with COVID and closing in-house dining and reopening and all the different changes that have come across.
And the changes continued through 2022. This time, it's fears of a recession as supply chain issues and inflation persist.
Yeah, we'd have to raise our costs to hit our margins.
And now the Japanese restaurant with 4 locations across the state is trying to help customers do that too, with discounts.
We're offering $15 off. We're calling it Hoppa Inflation Relief. We want to give you a little incentive to come on by.
Meanwhile, other Denver businesses are taking more extreme measures. Ryan Cobbins had to temporarily close his business, Coffee at the Point.
Rising costs and inflation. I mean, I just received a letter from one of our vendors that their prices are going to increase on us by 15%. 6 months after prices already increased.
Cobbins hopes to reopen September 13th with a shop makeover and a culture change. He's also hoping to address staffing difficulties and settle a lawsuit filed by a partner who signed on in 2020. The entire staff was laid off due to this closure.
We're without revenue this week, and the revenue that we were to make this week was going toward payroll.
Whether it be a closure or a coupon, both of these situations are likely to become more common, according to DU economics professor Matt Klaus.
The businesses are going to try to do something because we're starting to see the slowdown in consumer spending.
If you're wondering if all of this points to a recession, Klaus says we're already there.
The recession is when there's 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth in the GDP. And we've had that.
In Denver, I'm CB Cotton, Denver 7.
Tonight, we're hearing from a nurse who tried to save a man shot to death by an aggressive driver on I-70. Tessa Ryman Bryan came upon the scene near Quebec exit Sunday night. Now, Bryan performed CPR on Kevin Piaskowski until police and medics could arrive. And, well, sadly, efforts to save him would fail. He died from his injuries. And Bryan tells us, though, she wouldn't think twice before trying to help again.
It's just really surreal to think that your life can be over like that. I just will never regret stopping for someone because at one point we're all going to need help.
Now, Denver police say the person who killed Piaskowski was driving a stolen pickup truck and then fled on foot after crashing into a semi. So witnesses, anyone with information about all this, please call Crime Stoppers.
Tonight, we're getting to know more about the teen tragically shot to death alongside her mother last week in Loveland. 16-year-old Meadow Sinner and 41-year-old Lindsay Dahm were found dead inside their home last Thursday. The man police say killed them later killed himself. Meadow would have been a junior this fall at Mountain View High School, and today we got to speak to one of her former teachers. Christy Thompson taught Meadow last fall and says she was outspoken, funny, and extremely caring.
I feel like so many kids were just afraid to talk and everybody had masks on and it was so weird and awkward. And Meadow being herself and being outspoken and ready to give her opinion at any moment helped us all as a class kind of come together and get to know each other.
Meadow was also a member of the Colorado Youth Congress, and in a statement, the organization wrote, "She lit up every room she was in." A GoFundMe has been set up to help support her family, and you can find a link on thedenverchannel.com.
The Boulder County Commissioners making a big move tonight, passing a package of gun regulations aimed at curbing gun violence and mass shootings.
Denver 7's Jessica Porter is here to break down this new law and why a lawsuit to stop that might already be in motion.
And Shannon, in 5 separate unanimous votes, Boulder County Commissioners passed 5 ordinances aiming to protect the community from gun violence. The new laws prohibit anyone from under 21 from buying a gun in Boulder County. There is now a 10-day waiting period to purchase a firearm. Restrictions on carrying a weapon in places like hospitals, courthouses, and houses of worship. There is a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines and a ban on ghost guns. Public comment was lengthy tonight. Rocky Mountain gun owners are promising to sue the commissioners like they did to put a pause on a similar gun law that was put in the town of Superior. But many residents support the restrictions 1 year after the Boulder King Soopers mass shooting and multiple others across the nation this year.
I want to reiterate, if you pass these ordinances, Rocky Mountain gun owners will add you to the list of places we are suing over this.
The experiment is over. The theory that more guns makes us safer and that Americans can self-regulate when it comes to guns has failed disastrously. Gun violence is an epidemic in this country.
The new gun restrictions take effect immediately. A hearing on the lawsuit over Superior's gun restrictions is set for Thursday.
Thank you. Aurora police are looking for a man who tried to set people on fire because they were speaking Spanish. This happened July 23rd at the Rocket gas station on South Havana. Police say the suspect confronted customers who were speaking Spanish, told them they don't belong here, and he followed them outside, sprayed them with gasoline, and looked for a lighter to set them on fire. Anyone with information about this suspect is urged to contact Aurora Police, and the number is there on your screen.
A devastating loss.
It breaks your heart.
The Broncos lose a key contributor for the season.
Temperatures right around average tomorrow afternoon. Not quite as hot as what we've experienced the last few days, but it will be warming up this weekend. I'll let you know how much coming up.
Hello, CJ.
Plus, a Coloradan serving in the military goes above and beyond to wish his child a happy birthday.
I know that was very special to him. You can see it in his face and his smile.